Hello. Welcome to episode 9. This is Schozophronio, and I'm Chad, and here we are settling down to another episode. I feel like this is the first official episode of the new year, because the last one was kind of in between Christmas and New Year's. Kind of took some time to put the subtitles to it, which is not fun. That was the real deal, man. That was not gonna do that again. I mean, unless there's like a oh no, there we go. Unless there's another episode where, I mean, it has to be a short one. Like Sharon and I we got it down, but it all depends on how I'm talking. What I did notice about my talking is how much I jump around. This is not cool. So, that was honestly, like, that was something that I had to overcome in this whole thing. Like, it got to the point where I would subtitle a certain segment, and as I'm listening to myself talk back and knowing I have to type it out, like the words, I was like, well, if this thing is supposed to be me talking and I can't even talk, I'm jumping around in my own head, like my thoughts to mouth, there's a disconnect. Why am I even doing this? What the hell? But it's okay. It makes that's something that, they don't get to understand. Is that it's just kind of like off the cuff. There's some, bouncing around. There's some thoughts. There's some ad-libbing going on. And there's going to be some fumbling with words. That, if, but, that, and then, sorry, it happens. I mean, do people stutter? This might be. Is there stuttering? Can someone develop a stutter speaking sign language? Like, they kind of, like, get, like, their hands lock up. Or they have, like, carpal tunnel. And they're like... I'm going to just leave that there. I'm not going to go into that anymore. But I feel like this is the first one of the New Year's. The first one I'm actually sitting down and recording, so that's cool. This is actually like the first recording of 2018. That's kind of cool. Kind of cool to like be able to, benchmark it, like scratch it off on the old club. You know what I'm saying? But I want to jump into this with explaining what Schozlyfe is, because I feel like I hashtag it quite a bit. And okay, in other news, pause button on the Schozlyfe. I feel like I could get sick in an hour. I feel like I could get sick tomorrow. It's like right there. Like, I got some buildup in here. There may be some sniffling, some like weird, just like swallow sounds. And I'm apologizing ahead of time. I usually don't apologize for bodily noises that I make, ever. But in this case, because that's all we get in recording, and you're going to pick it up, and it's going to be like magnified because this microphone is like right here. Yeah. Anyway, I apologize ahead of time if I sound a little sick, but fingers crossed I don't get sick. So, so Schozlyfe, I kind of want to, unpack it, open up that book, if you will, and kind of read some about it. I mean, what Schozlyfe is, when I hashtag it, it's usually something that, for me, it's like my life, because like I mentioned in the last episode, everything I do now I have the podcast in mind. I have Schozophronio in mind. If something happens in my life and it's like, why? Why did that just happen? Why do people who born and raised here have no ounce of French in them still say, I'll take the almond or butter croissant? You're not French, you asshole. Don't. And I'll take a coffee and a croissant. Like, did you just spittle a little bit? Like, did something come out of your mouth? You can't control your tongue? Like, and I'll take the croissant. Shut up. Like, don't do that. Sorry. Anyways. Sorry. Again, when people do stupid shit, it bugs me, and then I have to say it out loud, and I lose my train of thought. Yeah, so, well, Schozlyfe. I keep hitting this thing with my freaking hat. That's annoying. But I have to wear a hat. I have to. Because my hair is like a grease ball. Like, look at this. I have like Lego guy hair. Like, this is, like, you could take it off, like, and it's just like, the Lego with the little nub. Like, that's, like, I feel like I could just take off my hair like, all at once. And I know some people are like, well, at least you have hair. Well, yeah, I guess. But it's just greasy right now. Anyway, I digress. Schozlyfe. Schozlyfe is kind of like, for me, it's every day. I pour everything I have into this thing. Everything that happens to me, I have the podcast in mind. So when I think of Schozlyfe, other things, it's like BYOC, bring in your own coaster. If you're going to go to a place where you're going to have a chilled iced beverage, and there's going to be some condensation going down the drinking vessel that you have, and you don't have a coaster, and someone comes by and like, oh yeah, here you go, put that on your cup. Or like, hey, what can I get you guys? And it's a couple of black napkins, like little square guys. What are you doing? Rule number 31 of coaster philosophy: don't cut corners on your coasters. Do not do that. Napkins? That's laziness. That's ridiculous. Because guaranteed, if you're serving some sort of alcohol at your place of eating or whatever, they can provide coasters. They would be happy to provide you. Because it's like free advertising. It's like advertising. So that's the goal, to get some Schozophronio coasters. Schozophronios. Man, that is the dream. But until that happens, grab a coaster from a place. They're not going to be like, hey, but did you just take that coaster, dude? Like, no. Just take the coaster. Just take your coaster. Just take the coaster. Sorry, that was just appealing to my ears as I said that. Just take a coaster, bring it somewhere else. And that way you have a coaster, and there's always that like settling in moment. I feel like if you're not gonna be sipping on something, there's always that settling in moment where you like get somewhere. If it's like a restaurant, work sometimes, somebody's house, your own house, you kind of settle in. And for us guys, we have our wallets in our ass pockets. I keep my phone back there too. We kind of, we don't want to sit on our wallets all the time. We kind of want to just unload, at least for my narrow, bony butt. Like, if I sit on my wallet, My phone has a crack in it. It's not from my bony ass, but my phone has a crack in it. I'm not going to sit on it. So, as you settle in, if you have a coaster, you put down the coaster first, and then you put your belongings on that, and that's kind of like your own little, your claimed space there. It's like, this is my stuff. It's all, organized, ready to go, and there's a coaster, my coaster that I brought. Hashtag Schozlyfe, okay? That's all it is. There you go. Also, another, there's a couple aspects of Schozlyfe. Falling asleep with your contacts in, and then waking up thinking like it's a New Year's miracle. I can see. Oh my, no, I just fell asleep with my contacts in. That's what happened. I'm lazy and I couldn't take my eyes out. I could brush my teeth, but I couldn't take my eyes out. I don't know. It's not a miracle. It's just Schozlyfe. That's what that means. Also, taking a nap. And a double whammy is taking a nap with your contacts in. But taking a nap and waking up at an hour where you can't tell if it's morning or night, and then thinking you're late to work and like, they didn't even call me? Like, are you kidding? I'm an hour late to work. It's the PM, not the AM. You're okay. Just go back to sleep. It's Schozlyfe. You're an idiot. That happens. That happened to me yesterday. So it's okay. You're just a little dumb. You're just a little dumb, But anyway, what are you doing new this year that you're kind of you want to make it stick? I mean, I know it's like first week, but there's a lot of people out there doing, stuff to make changes in their life. It's the New Year's thing. It's what you got to do. It's what people do. You don't have to. Like, for me, it's kind of, for me, I feel like I got a head start because this podcast is kind of what that is. And that was kind of November for me, where, I was even October, even, getting earlier than that. It was kind of October where it's like, well, I recorded a thing, and I mean, admittedly, I was just sending it to Sharon, like, how is this recording? Like, if this were an established podcast, how would this sound? How does it hold up against anything else you're listening to? How is, I mean, me, so that's kind of like already this thing that you're kind of biased to a little bit, but is it just entertaining if you just put it on and like if you're listening to it, like basically just moving past, getting through the growing pains of like, this is a new thing that I want to do that I hope is good. I mean, it's self-fulfilling to me, but like I mentioned in earlier episodes, it's like this thing that's like, I have to sacrifice a piece or a chunk of myself by putting that out there, by telling people that, yeah, I have a thing, and it's like kind of my thoughts, and this is what I'm doing with my time. Give it a listen if you want to. Even saying if you want to is like, it kind of makes me sound reluctant to even share that information that I have a podcast with you, but because here's the thing. I tell a lot of people that I have a podcast. Not a lot of people. I kind of mention it that I do it. And some people are like, oh, so what do you talk about? And what I say is just like, kind of shit that goes on in my life. It's kind of like my own thoughts. At some point, it felt like I was writing like a stand-up comedy routine. It was the weirdest thing. I was like sitting there, I forget what it was, and it kind of, there's like inklings of it throughout every episode where I write stuff out and I'm like, that's pretty funny, I should do that. And it's kind of like I'm writing bits for a comedy sketch kind of situation, which is so weird because I don't do that. That's not what I do, but I do want this podcast to be entertaining and, something that people can put on to kind of escape what they're going through. I feel like I have this massive hiccup building up and I don't know what to do. I don't think it's heartburn, but what is that? I don't know. It's kind of making me talk. Sorry. But ultimately, there's growing pains that come with it, and there's doubts that settle in, especially like, I've had doubts about it recently, especially putting subtitles to an episode. Like, putting subtitles to episode 8. I mean, not Star Wars episode 8. Not that not that episode 8, but could you imagine Sharon putting subtitles to a feature-length film? Are you? No. Like, there has to be some automated thing. Otherwise, no way. Anyways. Sorry. Also, part of Schozlyfe is thinking about doing something to the point where it's like, oh my God, I can never. And then like thinking you're going to throw up. That's Schozlyfe too, in a way. Like, oh, even the thought of that makes me, ooh. That's Schozlyfe, because there's a lot of stuff that people tell me, like, I cut my finger and then like I cut my finger and I started to bleed and there was blood dripping down. Like, I don't do blood very well, if you know me, and I get kind of queasy. Even thinking about it kind of makes me want to vom. That's Schozlyfe too. That's a part of it. But I had freaking doubts, dude, a lot. Like how I spoke, fumbling with words, like everything. We would go to subtitle like a little segment and then like, you've got to be kidding me. Why do I say and then the trash truck's outside. How loud is that exactly? I don't think it's very loud, but I'm going to power through it. But just doubting like the future of Schozophronio and the content and the way I talk and the way I am and the, like the content, like what I talk about. Like that's part of it. Like if I feel like people starting new things, especially this first week of this new year, that's going to happen, That was something that, I fought through, but because I had people around me saying like, nah, dude, I like it. And like, I could tell you're getting better at it and you should stick with it. That's why I mentioned in episode 8, like you gotta just tell people what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're up to, because if they know you and the people you talk to will know you, if they know you well enough, they'll be like, yeah, I know you wanted to do that. Dude, freaking do it. Do that. Stick with it. I don't know. I mean, I do know because Schozophronio is like a product of that. Like this is an ongoing product of something that I constantly doubt. I constantly like it's all related to that resistance thing that, and I mean, I know I mentioned episode 8, not Star Wars. Resistance, not Star Wars. Today's episode not brought to you by Star Wars, episode 8. The Last Jedi. See it once with your brother. See it a second time and fall asleep for the majority of it. And then wake up and realize it's over. That's what happened when I saw episode 8. the second time. I fell asleep the majority of it. And it was sad because I wanted to talk about it. I went with Raymond and he was like, dude, I tried to wake you up, but nah, dude. I was like, yeah, I was out. But what about when this happened? And I can still talk about it, but I wanted to see it again to connect dots, but I couldn't do that because I was asleep. Anyways, it's the resistance that I was talking about. Like the thing in you that like you shouldn't do it because you want to do it, and there's like a need there for you, and there's a need maybe that like you feel that you need to do it because other people need it. And you're like, yeah, I'm the one to provide that. People need this. And there's this tug of war that happens, but there's something there that you need to just stick it out, dude. I feel like I'm talking in circles. So, yeah, I mean, just stick to it. I mean, I feel like I got a head start on, like I said, I feel like I got a head start on the whole New Year's resolution thing by starting in October, which, you hear that? Did you hear that noise come from my, like, gut? My guttural noise? Ugh. Just, just do it. And the more you talk to people, the more it allows them to be someone who can bother you about it when you're not doing it. So if someone tells you like, hey, I want to work out a little more. I want to work out 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's what I want to do. And then Wednesday comes around, or better yet, Thursday comes around, and you say, hey, bro, did you work out? Hey, girl, you working out Wednesday nights? Like, how was your workout last night? And they're like, ooh, about that. Who doesn't like having the feeling like they can hold something above someone else's head? Like, oh, you didn't work out? Oh, what, did you have to eat? Were you hungry? Did you have to watch the game? Did you have to, you worked early, so you had to go to bed a little earlier so you couldn't go to the gym. And you didn't go before the gym. And you didn't go before work that morning. Just saying. There's something, because we're human beings and we suck, there's something about us, in us, that like loves to have information, or like, you told me that and now I'm going to use it against you. Everybody loves doing that. Just saying. For me, this year, something I want to do more is drawing. And I want to get into like animation, but not in a sense that like it's it's not even secondary in my life. It's just a hobby that I want to do. It's something that I'm interested in. I've always been interested in, and it's something that I just want to draw stuff. Like, I've been kind of messing with drawing like a cartoon version of myself, whether it's for like a logo for this podcast, whether it's just something I have that I can just throw up somewhere, not literally like, but, oh, that probably sounded horrible in your ears. I apologize for that. If you get queasy with throwing up, that's not Schozlyfe, because I'm not queasy around, vomit. But if you are, maybe that's your Schozlyfe. Whatever. Anyway, ever since I've gotten my Disneyland pass, occasionally, and I like to do it every time I go, but it doesn't happen all the time, to go to California Adventure, and there's a place. Why do I have my arm up like this? Why do I gotta post up? So anyway, sorry. There's an animation academy little situation, and the way it works, you go in, and it's kind of like you go in if you go into California Adventure and you veer left, you go straight. Once you hit Carthy Circle, you turn left, and you go down that Hollywood looking thing with like the huge painting at the end that kind of trails off to like this perspective point of view to where the street goes on for a while, but it's really just a wall painted that way. Spoiler alert, dude. But on the right side, if you're going down that way, on the right side, there's this Animation Academy studio thing. And when you go in there, there's a class, a half-hour class you could take, air quotes, of there's a Disney animator. To what capacity they actually are a Disney animator, I don't know. Like, they never say, like, yeah, I worked on this and this and this. That was so loud. My Gmail information is out of date. Thanks. What? Anyways, that was loud. Apologize if you heard that. Yeah, I don't know what capacity these people, because they don't say like, yeah, I worked on this show and this show and this show, and here I am in front of you teaching you how to draw this character. And each half hour, there's, I think the animators themselves have blocks, but each half hour you get to draw and you get to learn from a Disney animator how to draw a character. I've drawn, like the recent times, I've drawn Eeyore, Scrooge McDuck, Oswald, the Lucky Rabbit, Minnie, Baymax from Big Hero 6. So it's, it's just, you sit there and you learn how to kind of construct the characters using shapes, like construction shapes and lines, and it kind of lines you up. And it's the coolest thing. Like, I eat it up. Like, I love doing it. I'll go to Disneyland alone for like a couple hours just to do that, because it's something that, like, I feel like doing that, I can take it away from the park and just do it by myself. Like, I can learn how to draw this character, and then I can go home and draw the character myself, which is not always something that you get to take away from going to theme parks. Besides, like, I don't know, if you ate something weird, you get to take diarrhea home with you. Yay! There's, it's a cool thing, this Animation Academy. So what I've been doing a lot recently is watching the making of on YouTube, like the making of Snow White, the making of 101 Dalmatians, the making of Pocahontas, fill in the blank with a Disney animated feature film. And that stuff is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Especially learning about Snow White. I don't know if you know this. I'm going to dive a little too much into this animation thing, but it's what I've been doing. And hashtag Schozlyfe. Sue me. So I watched the making of Snow White, and the first animated feature film, and people were skeptical of it because it's like, who's going to sit down? Because it's the first time adults in a movie theater would sit down and watch a cartoon for over an hour, 86 minutes long. This animated feature film, just who's going to watch a cartoon for that long? The way they animated all this stuff, they brought on animators, like essentially people who drew, who illustrated really well, taught them how to animate. And it was European style animators, because if you go back to the date it came out, off the top of my head, I don't know, the year it came out, if you watch the shorts from that year, like the Mickey Mouse shorts from that year, and then you go, it was like silly symphony things. But if you go from those animations to Snow White, there's a trash truck again. I don't know if that is picked up by the mic. I just have to mention it. If it is, that's what that noise is. Uh, the the animators, or the animation from those cartoons, those shorts, to the feature film of Snow White, the animation is like so much like the way Snow White moved, the way the dwarves moved was just so fluid in comparison to like kind of like the noodly moves that Mickey would have. Uh, when he's playing like xylophone on the teeth, where it's like kind of the teeth of like the cow or whatever, where his noodle arms are just like, "Mwah." But seeing Snow White move like a human being like that it was so gnarly, and like at the time, and that's what Walt was picturing for these animated, this animated feature film, is for people to sit and relate to the characters because they're human like. They're like moving and thinking and speaking, and you could see their thoughts, like what they may be thinking, like actual humans. And it was what was insane about the Snow White thing is the animators would come to work in the morning, and then he would have animation classes for like in studio classes taught by like fellow animators of the people he brought in. He would teach them how to animate, like what to look at. He would film, people dancing and like walking around, and just how the clothes fell, certain steps, and how the body mechanics worked and everything. So all the stuff that is contemporary now, that it's just common practice now, he kind of like, what is it called? He kind of was the leading leader of that kind of animation method, like watching a video of people move and then animating to that video. It wasn't something that people did as much, but he wanted Snow White to look a certain way, so he did that. And what also blew my mind was that movie was animated and translated into like different languages all over the world. So, the book that opens up in the beginning, how it's like Snow White, and then the book opens up, and the words in there were translated, which had to be drawn to whatever language they were speaking, doing, translated to. Why am I? Yeah. So it was all drawn. All that stuff had to be drawn, including at the ends of the beds of each dwarf when they like sneak up and see Snow White for the first time, and all like notice all of the names of each dwarf are on the beds. Those were all translated to what language? Like happy and Spanish and French and German and Dutch and Hebrew and Latin, whatever. It was all translated, which had to be drawn, which had to be painted. Like, what? 101 Dalmatians? That was all sketched out, drawn. That was the first time they didn't have to paint each animation cell. I am going on such a tangent here, but I'm so stoked about it, so here we go. So originally, each drawing, each frame of animation had to be inked and painted by human hands. Like the outlines would be painted on one side, and then they'd flip it over of these like clear looking sheets and paint the other side. So as you looked at it from the front, the lines were all there, and Snow White had black hair with the outline. She had the blue sleeves, the yellow dress, all that stuff was outlined and painted on this one cell, which was one frame, one picture of this whole feature film. So that was one, and then she like starts to lift her leg. Take another one that was inked and painted by a human hand. Take a picture of that one. Move another. Are you kidding me? How can you not appreciate art like that? And that stuff's still around now. The thing with 101 Dalmatians that came out, it was the first one to have a Xerox machine involved. So also, people, So okay, Xerox machine was involved in that the drawings were then copied and inked onto like a glass plate. So it was kind of the first time that the drawings were like true to the artist's hands, and that they didn't have someone inking the outlines of their drawings and then painting them. So it was kind of like, yeah, that's the gist of it. But it was taking the pencil lines of the animators and Xeroxing them. So people lost jobs. All the people that inked and painted on these cells, animation cells, all lost jobs. But at the expense of the movie looking like the artist intended it to. So there's kind of like people lost their jobs, but it looked better. It's something that, what do you do? With 101 Dalmatians, they did that. That was like the first feature length with the Xerox situation. And what was so crazy about that is that they had to have a team. They had a couple teams. A team that erased the kind of like construction lines of bodies, how like when you draw a face, you want to have, like a top, like a vertical and a horizontal kind of crosshair on a face, so you can line up the ears and like the nose and the mouth based on perspective and the eyes, all that stuff. There was a team that went through and erased all those construction lines, so only the sketch lines came through as they copied it. So that must have been like, what's it called? Nerve-wracking, because you had to take an eraser to a Disney animator's sketch. Like, no way am I doing that. Like, all those drawings, all those lines had intentions until it came to, print them out. So some of the animators got upset that, like, that's not how it looked. You erased the line that wasn't a construction line. That was supposed to be the pant line. Like, dude. Also, they had an animation team that went through and animated and colored all the spots of all the Dalmatians. Like, what? That's insane. Like, because all the spots had to be moved as the dog moved. And meanwhile, there's 101 of them. What? And they all have their separate, like, own identical, not identical, but like specific spots. What? And come to find out, after the movie comes out, Walt Disney didn't like how it looked. Walt Disney didn't like 101 Dalmatians when it came out. After all that work. I think the intro to 101 Dalmatians, the animated movie, not the one with Glenn Close and like, not that one, not the live action one. The animated movie 101 Dalmatians, the intro to that movie with all the intro credits, I think that like couple minutes is my favorite part of any movie ever. One of my favorite parts of any movie ever. It is so cool how like the spots are like musical notes, how it all ties in, just the music style, all of it. I love that. Anyways, all that to say, I want to draw more this year. He actually, I was going to mention a quote because, okay, Snow White came out, and Snow White was the first feature-length film that everybody, like even kids and adults, went to a movie theater and sat down and watched an 86-minute cartoon for the first time. Like, what are you doing? When Walt Disney was asked about kind of like he was explaining like how his thoughts on like how it would or how it did appeal to young and old, essentially. And his quote was, he said this: "Over at our place, we're sure of just one thing. Everybody in the world was once a child. So when planning on a new picture, so when planning a new picture, we don't think of grown-ups and we don't think of children, but just of that fine, clean, unspoiled spot down deep in every one of us that maybe the world has made us forget and that maybe our pictures can help recall." And I think that's why it's that thing in me that like gets me so stoked about Disneyland every time I go. There's like a part of me that is never going to grow up, that being a human being I have, and it's like he said, like it's unspoiled, it's untouchable, it's always there, whether I'm 12 years old back in the day or now that I'm 29. I always have this one thing, this one area of myself that something about what freaking Disney does, like, cuts straight to that. And people around us, people saying croissant when they're not French, all that stuff, that's what Disney can do, and that's why I love Disney. That's what I mean. That's why I got so, pun intended, animated while talking about all that stuff. Like, it's tapping into something that I'm just so stoked about that I don't know. Anyways, here's something I've never done in a podcast, and I don't know how to edit this out exactly, and I might edit this out. But I have to pee, and I gotta go. So, I mean, nature's calling. I gotta go. You know? I'll be back. Why? Anyways, I did wash my hands. So, yeah. Anyways, where was I? Dinosaur of the day. Let's go there. Let's turn a corner. Let's turn a page. I literally turned a page there. That's why I mentioned that. Dinosaur of the day. We are on letter F. And this is an interesting one. Letter F, frutadens. This dinosaur is interesting because Uh, it was about 2 feet long and weighed about 1 to 2 pounds. Frutadens. 2 feet long, weighed about 1 to 2 pounds. A dinosaur. Isn't that insane? Isn't it though? Like, please? Frutadens. Greek for frutatooth. Greek for frutatooth. And it's frutatooth, not like Spanish, like fruta. It's not like frutatooth. I have like a sweet tooth. It's like a fruta, like sweet as a fruta in my mouth. It's a tooth, a frutatooth. Not like that. It was commonly mistaken for a fruit tooth, but it is actually fruta. It was named for the region of Colorado where the first fossils were dug up in the late 1070s. Like, dude, 1070s? People digging up dinosaurs? So you two dig up dinosaurs? You dig up dinosaurs in the late 1070s? What else is there to do in the late 1070s? What else are you doing besides digging holes? 1070? I mean, I'm not a historian. I can't go back and I mean, 1070, that's when, this was going on. So that's what they're doing. In the late 1070s, how does that differentiate? How does that differentiate from the early 1070s? If I were to say in the decade of 1070, I'd be like, well, I mean, maybe the late 1070s. I don't know if they were digging up frutadens in the early 1070s because that's when, the toilet was being invented. What else is going on in 1070? Nothing. How did we make it this far? The frutadens was probably omnivorous. Again, just like the Enigmosaurus was probably omnivorous. It was from the late Jurassic period. Probably omnivorous. Probably. Distinguishing characteristics. It was an exceptionally small in size, clearly. It's bipedal. It walked on 2 legs. And possibly feathers. What was distinguishing about this dinosaur is that what made this dinosaur different from other ones was probably this dinosaur stuff, dude. It probably had feathers. That's what distinguished. If you saw a little guy, like, oh, well, the distinguishing characteristics about that one, as opposed to that one, is, well, that one probably had feathers, right? Yeah. So, there we go. That's probably a frutadens. What? I don't know. I think the amount of times I say I don't know, I think I would be a great archaeologist. Is that what they call them? People digging up dinosaurs? The amount of times I say, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but I would be exceptional. I would excel in the business of digging up dinosaurs. As I said, business, this train of thought came. This is a fact. Now, let me tell you an actual fact. I said business. Did you know that a group of ferrets, like how there's like a pride of lions when there's like 3 or more lions, when the lions are in the carpool lane, there's a pride of lions. It's a pod of dolphins. Did you know a group of ferrets is called a business of ferrets? I find that to be very funny. I mean, they don't probably find it funny at all, because it's all business to them. See what I did there? Probably feathers had the frutidens. What was going on in Colorado in 1070? Now you know. The frutidens was being discovered from the late Jurassic period, which is over 150 million years ago. You're probably thinking, I don't know why that's so funny to me, saying that out loud, thinking you're invested in these dinosaurs. Now, as I described this dinosaur being only 2 feet tall and 1 to 2 pounds, you know what? I know what you're thinking. How does it survive amongst all of the bigger dinosaurs of the Jurassic period over 150 million years ago, with its bipedal posture and probably feathers? What is described to us in the article is it probably the way it survived is climbing up in the trees, getting its food that way, and at least during the day being up in the trees, and then at night, most likely traveling by land, down on the ground. And even if those big dinosaurs were to prey on those little guys, what is that, like a appetizer? If there's a business of frutidens, they're just gonna like swoop up and have 4 of them and be like, nah, that was a good starter. Now let's go to the main course, right? I don't know. Over 150 million years ago, I don't know what's going on 150 million years ago in Colorado. I don't know, and I sure as hell don't know what's going on in the year 1070, let alone the late 1070s. Anywho, letter F this week, frutidens. Yeah, that's a dinosaur of the day. The littlest dinosaur we've had so far, 1 to 2 pounds. Like what? What do the bones look like? Bird bones? Is that why they gather that it's probably feathered? Because it's, you know what? Chances are it wasn't even a dinosaur. It wasn't even a dinosaur. It was just a bird that they dug up, and they're like, this has got to be a dinosaur. But this is like, these bones look really old. This is probably a dinosaur. I don't know. Again, this dinosaur stuff fascinates me. But I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up. We got the dinosaur. You learned about animation probably a little too much because I, kind of nerded out there. But that's okay. This is my thing, and I get to talk about what I want, and I want to start animating. Well, I want to start drawing more, and I want to start. Here's what I want to do. So the cat's out of the bag, and this might take me all year. And this is something that, look it up, Google this. Cuphead has influenced in me. Cuphead, one of the hardest damn games I've ever played in my life. Also, animated like a 1930s cartoons. Video game animated like a 1930s cartoon. Picture it. That's what you see. Google it. Play it. If you want to, lose some years of your life in frustration, you should play it for sure. I still haven't beaten it. I don't know. I'm not good at games, but I play video games often. I want to. By the end of the year, I want to beat Cuphead. Also, I want to animate a cartoon, like kind of head version of myself saying, I want to animate it, whether it's just like a flip of like pages. I want to animate it saying Schozophronio. And of course, I picked the longest word ever to make up, ever, to animate. But that's what I want to do. By 2019, I want to have drawn myself as a cartoon saying Schozophronio. Whether it's a flip book, whether it's like, I don't know how you do it digitally. I don't even know how to. I could barely get this stuff to work for me. But that's what I want to do. I don't know. It's a goal that like I look forward to working on. I look forward to working on. And yeah, I think it'll be good. But that's all I have for this episode. Thanks for joining me again. If you made it this far, I freaking love you. I don't know why I just said that. I appreciate anybody taking the time. This is up to almost an hour. Taking an hour of your time to have me go into your ear holes and maybe spark something, maybe get you thinking about stuff, maybe getting you to want to watch 101 Dalmatians. And that beginning of that movie, incredible. Just, yeah, it's so good. Or just watching Snow White again and thinking like, if I was I'm an adult, why am I entertained by this? I don't know. It's a weird thing, but those are my thoughts. Also, before I go, I do want to remind everybody who drives, that the gas pedal is the one on the right and the brake is on the left. Just saying, just throwing that out there. Kind of deal with that every day, being out driving. In order to move your car forward, use the right pedal. Thanks. That's all. Just a subtle, just a little friendly reminder. And thanks again for listening to this episode. Again, check out the YouTube channel. It's legit. And yeah, check it out on it's on iTunes, Google Play, the Instagram. I post like random stories to that. And what I want to do with that, here I go again, just talking like while I have you. What I want to do with that, I want to like start posting stuff that like is kind of pertaining to what the episode, like the latest episode, is discussing. Like I think that kind of keep everybody in the same page, on the same loop, talking about the same stuff as it comes up. I think that'd be good to do, because then it keeps it like, then it doesn't need to be like given CPR and like resuscitated every episode that comes out. Like, oh, okay, here's another episode, and then like dead air, and then another episode, cool, and then oh yeah, what is this notification? Oh yeah, Chad's thing. I guess I'll kind of listen. I'll give it a listen. I want to keep it like going and like live and breathe, and so I think I want to be a little more active on the Instagram thing, whether it's a story, whether it's posts pertaining to subject matter content of the episodes. But thank you for listening. I appreciate your time more than it sounds like. Like I'm just saying that, but like I really do appreciate you listening to this. And hope you have a good week. And yeah.